Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Standing by with me is Dr. Mande Samaila, a dean at the National Open University of Nigeria. Very welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, Nigerians.
So we know that the president had a lot to say during his New Year address, and I want to get into one of the kind of priority issues that was laid out in terms of infrastructure, and that's the power sector. The president in his address said that the nation is now generating 7,000 megawatts and that by the end of this year, after some projects come on stream, it'll get closer to 8,000 megawatts. The issue, of course, has been transmission and then, of course, distribution. He says that, that the TCN is able to transmit all 7,000 megawatts, that the problem is with distribution companies. What do you say? Do you believe that that's an accurate picture of what's going on in the power sector?
Well, thank you so much, Ajuri. And I must say that it's a welcome development based on what Mr. President said. It is indeed something that is the focus and one of the administration goal in that direction. One thing I want all of us to understand is that there's no doubt about it, the power is one of the sector, is one of an area that we have serious deficit in our infrastructural development. And because of that, it has hampered a high level of economic development. And so based on some of the things, because it is a new year budget, which is now, new year message which he has now delivered to Nigerians, what I want to believe in that direction is that at the end of the day, yes, no doubt about it, there are various initiatives, various steps, approaches towards solving this problem. You can look at the aspect that has to do with the Mambila Power Project, which is talked about, and that project has been there for over 40 years ago, just there, but not even talked about and all that. But with the coming of this administration, that Mambila project has even gotten to 98% completion. It's a matter of, after some days or whatever, they will soon commence a test run.
I'm sorry, I believe you're referring to the Zungero project, 700 megawatts. The Mambila project, 3,000 megawatts, is set to be completed 2023.
Yeah,
I just wanted to correct that.
Yeah. So because these are part of the various approaches towards solving this problem, because no doubt about it, the challenges we have in our country in terms of economic development and all these things, power is the major one. Some Nigerians have this facility in their own country, but many other Nigerians do not have power in their country. And so I want to believe the various initiatives, and then based on what you are talking about, the TCN, and yes, what we need now is that Nigerians, and that's the more reason why I talked about entrepreneurs, should now fully get themselves involved towards the marketing and the distribution of those sectors that has been discussed.
That's one of the things the president touched on in his speech. He mentioned that Nigerian youths should begin to look inward instead of outward, instead of looking at the private sector or even government for jobs, that they should begin to think of how they can create jobs, not just for themselves, but for other Nigerians. Do you believe that that charge, if you will, is one that should come from the president of the country? Because some will say, look, Mr. President, you came to office pledging to create jobs, and now you're in office and you're telling us that we need to create jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought on that is that, yes, I agree, there's the government's part of its mantra is about job creation or whatever, but the one thing that need to be stated clearly is a radical departure. When I say a radical departure, I'm talking about a radical mindset change. That idea of we coming out to say that, okay, we need a job, we need a job. What is emphasized in that statement is that your ability, your own creative sense towards having this idea that I can do it. So that's what the whole statement is all about. So the most important is not just for our young entrepreneurs or whatever, or the youths to be there to be talking about looking for civil service job or white collar job, but an opportunity. That's why he's calling, and in other words, imploring us to working towards to get other means of livelihood and all that. And entrepreneurship is the key word. I must use this opportunity to commend the Tony Elumelu Foundation over some of the initiatives they have been doing towards, bringing up the young entrepreneurs in that direction. So it is not just for us to have that mental set of talking about, okay, waiting for jobs. It should be a psychological departure, a radical change, a mind change. Instead of talking about looking for government job, that we going out to look for something. And that's the more reason one. If you notice very well, even in the speech, where he talked about, yes, we're going back to land, going back to farming sector and all this. So you can look at it because over-dependence on the foreign good is one of the bane affecting our economy. And if there are ways for youths to also work towards, embarking on agricultural development, it will indeed go a long way in enhancing our status and indeed our economic development. And that's the more reason why the need for the youth to be involved in entrepreneurial initiative, in the entrepreneurial venture is key. And there is no discipline today that do not have entrepreneurial initiative. There is nothing you do that you cannot think of the entrepreneurial dimension in it. No discipline, no course of study. So the idea of saying that I studied this course, I'm looking for a job is not there. There is no discipline you will study. I say no discipline. Any course you study, there are entrepreneurial dimension in it. There are entrepreneurial initiative in it. So that is the more reason why you're talking about, yes, we should all work towards getting that answer because of the over-dependence in government job is not really helping matters and all that.
Dr. Samaila, I'm going to throw it over to Lagos, where Gimba is standing by. Gimba?
Yeah, Dr. Samaila, you listened to Mr. President's New Year message. In your view, do you think he was able to be in touch with the realities that Nigerians face today?
Gimba, thank you so much. Your question is indeed a double-barrel question. When you talk about reality with the reality of Nigeria, yes, no doubt about it. Yes, he did that. And you can even see that from the introduction of his speech at the initial stage, where he talked about the kind of actions, the activities by some Nigerians, inflicting pains on some. The last Christmas that we just coming out and all that, the idea of fuel scarcity in the country, that led to serious panic buying and all that. It's affected Nigerians. No, and you can even listen critically that no doubt about it, that he felt the feeling and he really understood the pains. And that's the more reason why, if you look at it critically, not most Nigerians could travel. And those who were able to afford the means of traveling did that highly exorbitant and all that. You can see today, all over the country and all this, the fuel scarcity is eased off completely. So there is no doubt about it, because I want to believe that looking at somebody's history and orientation, if you are not connected, if you don't have the touch or understanding of the feelings of the people, those things would have been reflected in Mr. President's speech.
So would you say that what is happening in the country today, and judging it from the position that the APC made some promises when it came into office to Nigerians, do you think that those promises are being met to this time with the kind of situations that we are in?
Well, thank you so much. Incidentally, I'm not somebody that will comment on that because I'm not the spokesman of the party. But all I want to say, because of what you're talking about, issues that has to do with promises and all this, and yes, there are some cardinal statements made during the coming of this administration. Number one is security, and number two is about economic development as well as power. And when you look at this, using security as a major indicator, as a major indices, I want you to look at it critically. That some years ago, you and I knew very well that the stability of our country, the security of our country is something terrible. But today, people can move from various parts of the country in terms of movement and all that without much stress. And I want you to understand that this is something that is quite clear and is indeed visible. The way and manner, you remember some years ago, even to celebrate the Christmas, there were a series of bombings left and right in various parts of the country. But this year, I want you to understand that even if there was at all anywhere, it was indeed minimal. So using security as a major indicator. So security, I want to say that the government has performed creditably well in that aspect. So, but in the other aspect that maybe you are yet to talk about and all this thing, could be in some other promises that were made and all that. But I want you to understand that definitely the government would work towards fulfilling its promise, because promise is not something that one should joke with. It is a measure of assessment. If you say this is what you are going to do, so you have to do it. If you are not going to do it, let those people that you told them that you are going to do this be aware. If there are factors responsible for you not doing it, let them be aware of those factors inhibiting or affecting you from not doing it. Because government is about engagement.